Welcome back to Print Reading for Concrete. My name is Dan Dorfmiller, and I will be your instructor. This is Unit 4, Specifications, and if you have been taking these training videos in sequence, you have now learned about drawing organization, what the lines and the symbols mean on the drawings, construction math, and how to use an architect and engineer's scale. In this unit, you will get an introduction to specifications. Simply stated, specifications are the written statement of the construction documents that define the extent, quality, and the materials to be used. Specifications are a supplement to the drawings, often called specs. Specifications are standardized by CSI, Construction Specifications Institute. Most all specifications will be organized in the new 6-digit 49 division system. The first two numbers are the general categories and breakdown like this. 01 general conditions, something you're familiar with, concrete. They've done something a little bit different with it now called 02 existing conditions. Wood is the same, thermal's the same, openings is now a new division, finishes has always been 09, specialties has always been 10, 11 equipment, 12 furnishings, 13 special construction, 14 I believe I think that's new, conveying systems, fire suppression is new, plumbing's new, 23 HVAC is new, 26 electrical is new, 27 communications. Earthwork is now Division 31, which is a little bit odd. I don't know why they would put it toward the back of the specification. 32 exterior improvements is also toward the back, and 33 is now utilities. Here's the list of all 49 divisions as you look down through here. Also notice some of these divisions have been reserved for future expansion, and here division number 49 has been reserved for future expansion. Also notice that they've grouped these things in some what they call subgroups. The first subgroup being general conditions, the second subgroup being the construction subgroup, services subgroup, infrastructure subgroup, and equipment subgroup. For additional information, go to csinet.org, or my best suggestion is to simply Google CSI format in a PDF form and see what it brings up. They'll bring up actually quite a few pieces of information that I could not include in here. Each division is broken down into many subcategories as seen here, all starting with 03, and the rest of the 4 digits are used to define the subcategories. You do not need to remember all these different groups, but it is nice to become familiar with the basic breakdown, so when you need to find a particular item on a drawing, you have an idea where to go look for it. Some specifications can be in multiple books up to 2 to 3 inches thick, depending on the project. Now let's take a few minutes and look at the anatomy of a specifications. Most specifications are broken down into these basic categories: related documents, a summary, related sections, definitions, references, all the way over to warranties. We'll take a moment here next and look at each one of these. Related documents is where they pull in all the rest of the specifications and all the drawings. For instance, pay, retainer, insurance requirements, prevailing wages, and I call it a whole lot of gotcha stuff. Summary is what is included in this section. It's kind of like a quick reference, and then related specifications. Always read this really carefully. And occasionally they'll have some definition of common and uncommon terms for the purpose of this specification. I'll show you an example of that a little bit later. References. This is where they pull in publications like ACI, ASTM, anything related to PCA or other documentations. This is where they can pull in lots of volumes, and you need to be familiar with it All they need to do is simply list an ACI number. Description of work, similar to summary with more detail of the work included. Quality assurance, this is where you might list installers, producers, material suppliers, qualifications, years of experience, possible certifications that you might need, mock-ups and samples that might be required, pre-installation conferences also can be mentioned here. Submittals, again, this is where the product material information, tech data, color charts, other types of samples, maybe some additional contractor qualifications. Special inspections might be along something like an independent lab inspection, maybe some other additional quality assurances. Project conditions, and you'll see some examples of this soon, accept the site conditions, and you need to understand where storage, layout, and access is going to be. Products, this is where manufacturers and basis of design has been defined. And performance of products, again, a lot of ASTMs will go along with that. Execution, examine the area, accept, inform in writing. You'll see some examples of this later on. So look for some abnormal requests, and again, lots of gotchas. Protection, who is responsible? I say read it, qualify it, or you might be weeping. Maintenance, be prepared to submit owners on how to maintain his concrete. Warranties can be a real tricky thing. I almost got bitten by this where the general conditions specified a warranty of 5 years and the concrete section only specified one year. And luckily, I had the qualification in my proposal, and that was copied directly into my contract, 1 year. Obviously, this can be a very big thing and cost somebody an awful lot of money. Make sure you read both your concrete section and the general conditions to find out what the warranty might be or if there's a conflict between the two. Final cleaning and repairs. On some jobs, this can be very challenging, especially when other trades have been working over the concrete work for many months. The table of contents is where you're going to find the list of all the specifications within the construction documents. Here, we're looking at the old 5-digit system. Here's another table of contents using the 6-digit system. Note, we're looking at the first page. We have procurement and contracting requirements. This would probably mostly be used during the bidding stage. And then we have Division 1 general requirements, and quite a list here of a lot of things that will apply probably to every specification section within the entire document. Here is an older set of specification using the 5-digit system where they've taken the concrete division and broken them down into these 5 different categories. And here's an example of a newer set of specifications. We're looking at the 6-digit system, and the concrete again is broken down: formwork, concrete reinforcement, post-tensioning, cast-in-place concrete, and non-shrink grout. Okay, let's take a few minutes and look at a few common areas of specifications. Let's look, it says here, examination. Bidders, reading this out, bidders shall carefully examine the site and documents to obtain first-hand knowledge of existing conditions and work proposed. Do you think this could get you in some trouble on a particular project? So you really need to follow through and make that site visit. Let's read on. Contractor will not be given extra payment for conditions which can be determined by examining the site and the documents. This is a pretty big catch-all statement. And where is it located? General conditions, not in the concrete section. The general conditions is also where you'll find some of the safety requirements for bidding the job. Remember that conversation we had about cleanup earlier in the video? Well, here it is. And where does it show up? It shows up in the general conditions. And here it talks about each subcontractor performing the work. Also, please note that I'm going to be showing examples of specifications from both the 5 and the 6-digit system. The concepts are the same. Note here under Submittals, General, submit each item of this article according to the conditions of the contract and Division 1 specification sections. So right off the bat here in the concrete section, we've got to go back and look at Division 1 and see what we're supposed to do. And here's one of my favorites. What do you see listed down through here? ACI, 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 specifications of all kinds of documents. I'll bet if you added all these up and put all the books one on top of each other, they might add up to maybe 1.5 inches to 2 inches thick, all brought in simply by this paragraph. These are documents that you need to be familiar with. And continuing on, Concrete Pre-Construction Conference. There's a lot of stuff here that you have to be aware of and will have to perform when you come to the pre-construction meeting. Continuing on, here's your list of all the different acceptable products that can be used on the project. Slump requirements can be found usually in 1 or 2 places, here in the specifications or sometimes listed on the general notes page of the structural documents, which we'll see later in the training video. Here's an example of something you normally wouldn't see in a specification: crack control and slab on grade. It's usually the designer takes care of all this stuff. Here they're putting it onto the some level of this onto the contractor. That is not normal. So when reviewing them, become familiar with what is common and is important, and it takes experience. This experience will come with practice and time. Be patient and ask a lot of questions of more experienced individuals. Just remember, assuming can be very costly later. Last but not least, note, each section says, end of section. Here is a great example of definitions. In a normal sense of the word, flatness, levelness, envelope, specific overall value, minimum local value, those could mean a variety of things, but in concrete finishing and in reference to slabs, they have very specific meanings. So here they are defined very specifically in the specification so nobody has any misunderstandings. Here's another good example of finishing floors and slabs. We have under general, we have comply with recommendations from ACI 302-1R for screening, restraightening, finishing operations, and concrete surfaces. Note, this ACI 302 is bringing in another 77-page plus document. Here, the FF numbers are further defined so that there'll be no misunderstanding about FF, what the floor flatness needs to be, the floor levelness needs to be, and what the minimum local values need to be. And here is additional information about floor flatnesses and floor levelnesses. Please feel free to pause this video at any time and read through some of the information to better understand it. Again, here we have more floor tolerance information. Here's another example of related specifications where they bring in a whole bunch of other things that you need to be familiar with as part of the specification up here that you might be bidding on. Here we're talking about mock-ups. Notice what the architect says. Build the mock-ups in a location and of the size indicated, if not indicated, as directed by architect. That can be a little bit difficult to put a bid number on, can't it? And again, the architect is asking for a pre-installation conference, which is always a good idea. Occasionally in specifications, you will find something that is specified. For instance here, a buff premium color group, Davis color, and it notes no substitutions from the above. What that means is you better use Davis color, or if you got a lower price from somebody else, the architect says up front he's not going to accept that. Here's another example of examination of the site. It says, examine the areas and conditions under which the cement concrete pavement is to be performed and notify the contractor in writing of conditions detrimental to the proper and timely completion of the work. Do not proceed the work until unsatisfactory conditions have been corrected in an acceptable manner. So what this has done, it's transferred an awful lot of responsibility over to the contractor and the subcontractor. This is an interesting example of the specification is color hardener, concrete finishing, and imprinting. And down here under summary, it says color hardener, concrete interior and exterior, curing of color hardener, concrete exterior and interior, stain of color hardener, concrete. And staining frequently is a part of some other specification, and it goes on to identify sealing, stamping, cleaning, waxing, and additional sealants for expansion and control joints. Also notice under related sections include the following. We've got all the way to the Division 7 and possibly beyond here, which I can't see, that are also included in this specification, things that you need to be aware of. There may be in other specifications that will relate to Section 03-36-1. Here's an example of quality assurance. Applicator qualifications says has to have 5 years of experience and 10 projects comparable in scale and complexity. The interesting thing about this is frequently they ask for it and seldom do they really demand it. Low bid gets the deal. Here's an example of protection. It says protect work of other trades from damage whether being colored, stained, or not. Correct damage by cleaning, repairing, replacing, and recoating as approved by the architect. Leave in an undamaged condition. What that really says to me is it's putting it on to the contractor, and the contractor is going to put it on to the subcontractor. So this can be a big ticket item depending on how you bid it and qualify your proposals. Here's another example of cleaning and protection of stained concrete, honed and polished concrete. Please remember to pause anytime you want to take a moment and read the additional portion of the specification. But what I'm really saying is qualify protection when you're bidding a job. Here's one last example of maintenance where it talks about clean floors, surfaces not more than 4 days before dates of scheduled inspection intended to establish date of substantial completion in each area of the project. That requires you to come back to the job, clean your area up, and make it look nice. So if you don't properly qualify this, you could be going back and having to do additional work, maybe at your expense. The money you had in the bid, maybe you didn't have the money in the bid, but you better qualify it. Okay, we're here at Test Your Knowledge. Please go to the end of Unit 4 and pull out the specification pages and answer sheets. Take some time and read these 2 pages here and these 2 additional pages here. Answer the following questions from the 4 pages of specs included from your student book on these 2 pages here. Please take a moment and pause the video here and complete Test Your Knowledge exercise. Okay, let's go through the answers. Under which division would you locate roofing materials and processes? Division 7. Interior wood trim. Division 6. Interior finishing of walls. Division 9. You have now completed Unit 4, Specifications. Remember, read them or weep. Please continue to Unit 5, Architectural Drawings. See you there.